Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks. Today at Scottish Cup final preview with two men who know this competition very well, Andy Webster and Danny Grainger. Andy won it twice as a player, both with Dundee United and Hearts, as well as Danny Grainger scoring one of the goals in the 2012 final as Hearts famously beat Edinburgh rivals Hibs 5-1. We hope you do enjoy this video. Do remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Touch on a lot of things in this video, and we thank Andy and Danny for their time, everything from how they think the match will go. Do Hearts actually have a chance against Premiership opposition? Not so much that, a team who have been completely flying in Scotland over the past few seasons, winning everything in their path, as well as a look back on their own memories of the Scottish Cup, beating Celtic in the semi-final on the way to the 2012 tournament, the build-up to a final and what comes with that, as well as a poignant tribute to Marius Saliukis, the former Hearts captain. Both of these men played in defence with Marius, and sadly he passed away earlier this year on the day Hearts beat Hibs in the Scottish Cup semi-final of this year's tournament, and Hearts players will wear number 26 in their shorts to commemorate Marius. So we hope you do enjoy this video. All of that to come in the next sort of 24-25 minutes. We had these two form again. We thank them for their time. Do remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, take it easy. Obviously, this weekend Scottish Cup final, some used to know a fair bit about. How you sort of feeling ahead of it? You are both obviously hoping for a maroon victory, I would think.
Yeah, I think obviously it's probably the best time that Hearts could have wanted to play Celtic. A lot of pressure on the shoulders, and there'll be a little bit more nerves in and around the squad than what probably they would normally if they were flying high at the top of the league. So I think it's a great time to play them. I think obviously Robbie will have his team set up that probably to hit on the counter attack and show them the respect they deserve. At the end of the day, they are Celtic. But again, I think it's a game that probably similar to the semi-final. If you're big players, your Craig Gordons, your Ollie Lees, your Herrings, people like that, Naismith and Boyce have good games. There's no reason why Hearts can't get a victory.
No, Andrew, you much the same?
Yeah, I think both teams will go into that game thinking that they can win. I think they can both address it in a manner that suits them in terms of Celtic have shown chinks in their armour recently. I'm sure Hearts will fancy their chances, as Dan touched on there as well. Hearts have got experienced players who've been there as well, who know what it means to win major trophies. So I don't think there'll be any sort of real fear factor. Celtic are not as invincible as what they were previously, so I'm sure that'll play into how Hearts approach the match.
Yeah, I think it'll be probably fairly tight. I mean, we were speaking about it before recording, Danny, that Hearts probably they've played well in the Championship, but perhaps not quite as well as people thought it'd be. I think people thought they'd just go in and win every game 6-0, albeit 1-6-1 at the weekend, but it has been difficult for them in that division.
Yeah, I think Sunday is probably the complete opposite of what they've been used to. In every game, like you say, they've been expected to go blow teams away, be the better team, be the stronger team, the fitter, quicker, stronger team, everything like that. Whereas Sunday, there's no two ways about it. They are the underdog. Whenever you play Celtic as a player, you're always the underdog. So I think they'll be going into that game with a different mindset, and I think it'll probably play into their hands a little bit. I think obviously, like Webby says, the experienced players there that have been there and done it. There's nothing for them that they're going to fear and say, "Oh, we've got no chance." There's games where all of us have played in, knowing that sometimes you go into it and think, if this goes wrong, it could be a long afternoon. And I think Hearts will not be thinking like that at all. I think they'll be going in there positive, and they'll be looking forward to the game, going in as a little bit of an underdog and trying to catch Celtic out and trying to get them on the back foot early.
Yeah. The semi-final as well, obviously, beating Celtic in cup competition, something you have both get a bit of experience with.
Yeah, I think probably everything's the same, slightly different circumstances. But yeah, I think that ultimately Hearts will go into the game with, as much as it's a cup final and there's obviously a lot at stake, as Dan touched on as well, probably with less fear than maybe what they normally go into a match. Nobody really expects them out with Hearts to win the football match, so everybody will expect Celtic, with the record that they've had in cup competitions recently, that's and what Celtic have. And yeah, I think it'll be an interesting match. I think it'll be probably like most cup finals as well. Hopefully, whoever gets the first goal will settle them down a little bit and give them that opportunity to have a platform to build on.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the differences that Hearts will have, and just in terms of build-up, is that every week they play now is they're the favourites, but this week is obviously very different.
Yeah, I think obviously when we went into the semi-final against Celtic, we were sort of looked at in probably the same way as what Hearts will be this weekend, in the fact that no one expected us to get a result apart from everyone inside the dressing room and the fans and things like that. There was an expectancy, and I think it'll be same this weekend. As you play for a club like Hearts, there's always expectation on your shoulders, and I think, and I know obviously I've said this openly before, but people like Webby and Zal and players like Rudy, that they have the experience of these big games prior to the Celtic and the cup final. It was massive for players like me, and I think that'll be the same on Sunday. Like I said there and touched on it before regarding the experience, the experienced players, little things that they'll say will have a big impact on the younger players and the lads that maybe haven't played in a cup final or as big a game as this before. So no, I think Celtic are definitely there. And as I said at the start, I think it's a great time to play Celtic. And I think if you can get them on the back foot early and get that early goal, like Webby says, then there's hopefully going to be able to a few more chinks in the armour that you can sort of pick off and hopefully get a few more goals.
Have any of you sort of watched, I know this is not Old Firm, but have any of you sort of watched Celtic in the past few weeks defensively?
I've not seen overly much, but you can tell they have slipped up, they've underperformed. Generally, probably not just defensively, as a group and as a team and as a club, they're definitely experiencing something that they've not had for a long period of time. So this is the bit for them that, regardless of how relentless they've been over a long period of time, they're probably experiencing something slightly different and something slightly new, which might be unusual to a few of them as well. So, as I said, that might play into Hearts' hand as well. I think regardless of what league you're in, winning games of football breeds a confidence amongst the group. So Hearts will go into the game with that confidence. And as I say, if they start in the right manner and approach the game in the right manner, then there's every opportunity that they'll be successful. I think it's probably like anything. Celtic will address the game in a certain manner, how it best suits them, and same with Hearts as well. With Robbie and Hearts, they'll approach the game in a certain manner and how they think the game's going to be and the weaknesses that both oppositions have. So I think both teams will have a belief going into the match. I think what we touched on earlier as well, the experience that Hearts have, they will relish that opportunity going in and the opportunity to win a Scottish Cup, which is huge. So I think Hearts will relish the task, and obviously Celtic will as well, but all the pressure's on Celtic.
Yeah, but you see, when you sort of went into this, I know obviously the final's obviously the big one that Hearts remember, but when you go into any sort of game of this magnitude against any of the top two from Glasgow, stakes are sort of raised a bit just in terms of the overall coverage that it gets.
Yeah, I think obviously when you go up against either of them, and then obviously you throw the derby in there as well, there's always, as Webby says, it's the if you're winning week in, week out, you've got that mentality. If you're playing well, you just can't wait for the next game. And I think sometimes when you're in the sort of that little bit of a dip that Celtic are at the moment, they might not be looking forward to the game as much as what they would be if they were flying high. So again, like you say, there's always expectation when you go against Celtic and Rangers and against big opposition, that you know that you have to be on it, and any little mistake can be punished. And I think obviously the game plan we had against Celtic in the semi-final, it worked for us, but on other days it might not have worked. And I think obviously when you're going out into a cup final, the biggest thing is that it doesn't pass you by. And I think, as we've said from the first comment, is the experience won't let it pass them by. And I think the experienced players will be relishing, like Webby says, in the fact that they want to carry on the get a cup final win under their belts at the club. They'll be wanting to put obviously another little dampener on Celtic, and again making sure that Hearts are successful moving forward.
Yeah. In the build-up to the final, how did you guys sort of deal with the pressure of all that came with that? Obviously, Hearts is compared to 2016, it wasn't like Hearts fans were waiting a a decade or anything for a trophy, but the build-up, given who it was against, I'm assuming was quite wild.
I think the good thing about being a football player and in the environment that you're in, you just generally tend to focus on the football aspect. Obviously, some players are on social media, they'll see a little bit more, but I think you generally just go about your business how you normally would. You're in a little bit of a cocoon where you can just concentrate on the football, your preparation, take care of that, making sure everything out with that is organised as well, and just trying to be in the best possible shape, physically as well as mentally, when you arrive for whether it's a semi-final or a final, having prepared properly and give yourself the best opportunity and the best platform to perform.
Very sensible. Any you sort of, Danny, I'm assuming you're much the same, but did you find yourself getting caught up in it at all?
I thought that Paolo played a big part in the week leading up to the semi-final and the final, because he never changed anything. We never really done anything out with what we normally did when we played against when we played Celtic in the semi-final. We didn't change our preparation. It was very similar. The training week was the same, and there wasn't sort of any overthinking or overanalyzing what was coming up. And I think obviously we touched on what we felt like we could do to get the result, and then we sort of went out and got on with it. But like Webby says, it's when you're in your bubble of the squad and you're going to training, you're going home, you probably are a little bit more conscious about maybe getting to bed a little bit earlier, but you're just rolling week into week out. And again, without overthinking it, there was a lot of lads, especially coming up to the final, the likes of Lockie and Blackie and Gowser, who had a big hearts connection with friends and family. Again, it was more so them that were concentrating on the outside of the boxes, as you would say, rather than sort of just getting on with the fact that it was just a game coming up. But again, I think obviously the closer you get and you start seeing the press and everything like that, it does start taking its toll, and you do start getting the butterflies. But it's excitement as well, and I think obviously that's what everyone will be looking forward to this week, is that they're excited to a Scottish Cup final.
It's just a bit of a bizarre nature of it all, just because it's going to be 5 days before Christmas. There's not going to be fans there. It's last season's competition in the middle of this season, where already so much has happened.
I think regarding that, yes, traditionally, but obviously circumstances at this moment in time have dictated, ultimately, regardless if it's on a Sunday, a Monday, the middle of December, the middle of June, July, whatever it may be, there is a Scottish Cup at stake. So it doesn't matter when it gets played. People will prepare in a manner that they go into the game wanting to win. I get the fact there'll be no fans there, and that's a huge disappointment for everybody concerned, because ultimately that's why you play football, is to play in these big occasions and adding to the atmosphere, the fans. When you go out for the warm-up, you start to feel the build-up of that game and the anticipation that comes with it as well. So from that side of it, that will be disappointing. But ultimately, getting your hands on the Scottish Cup, doesn't matter what day of the week it is, you're desperate for it.
I can imagine. I can mind listening in the Mullal Trophy room once when we were doing a press call, and it was all right. So I can only imagine walking up the steps at Hampden must be pretty decent.
Yeah, until someone tries to pull down your shorts halfway up.
What's this?
No.
It's walking halfway. If you watch us walking up the stairs, just as we're about to turn the corner, the person behind me, Big Webby, just tries to pull the shorts down on me to give it a little hit. But right in the middle of TV, me standing there in a pair of slips would have been a great sight for everyone. But again, that, like Webby says, it doesn't matter when it is. It doesn't matter any excuse, even if it's in the longest 90 minutes that you've been battered for and you nick it off someone's backside in the last minute. You just want to get your hands on that Scottish Cup, and walking up them steps, like I say, it was they're the memories that everyone wants as a footballer. And as Webby said, it'd be very different without the fans, but to get your hands on a Scottish Cup is massive for anybody.
Yeah, I'll not ask any of the personal details that happened with these after that. Remember that, but sort of after that, like obviously the big thing for these Hearts players is you sort of become written into Hearts folklore, especially Robbie Neilson and Craig Gordon. I think they can win it sort of twice now with the club, but to have that, like you, Danny, and Andy, you will always be remembered by Hearts fans as part of that 2012 group. That's also a carrot there for the 2020 group.
Yeah, I think on that as well, it's nice to have played a part in a significant opportunity. So for myself and Dan, one of the biggest games that the club had ever been involved in. But obviously, with it being an Edinburgh derby, everything that had gone with it, Hibs hadn't won it previously to that, all the pressure that went with that as well. So yes, the bit where you get to play a small part in that, I think it's also good that the fans get to enjoy that experience as well, because you don't want the shoe to be on the other foot and you're on the receiving end of that type of stuff as well. So no, I think for us it's nice to have played a small part in a significant achievement for the football club.
Would you go as far as saying that's the highlight of your career?
Mine, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. I think obviously I had a Scottish Cup and Cup final heartache before, and I felt like I was never going to get the opportunity. I've missed one with Gretna, I missed one at Dundee United. So again, yeah, really disappointing for me. And then obviously to finally get that opportunity, and as Webby says, in an Edinburgh derby, one of the biggest games for however long for both clubs, and to be a part of it was massive. So yeah, I mean, that was the memories, and to be honest with you, we've been through a lot that season with everything off the field regarding everything, and we became a very close group together. So again, being able to have that memory with the group of lads that you've been through a lot with, it was special as well.
Yeah, it seemed to capture a real moment in time just before, I think that season was probably the season. Obviously, things had started brewing off the park, but that was the season really before stuff really went wayward.
I think on that as well, it was starting to unravel during that season. I think everybody at the football club started to feel what was going on in the background. It started to come to the fore. Players suffered, coaches suffered, backroom staff suffered, players suffered, people in the offices suffered as well. We did. I think sometimes these situations can galvanise a group. And as Dan said as well, we had to stick together, because ultimately for us, the only bit we could really influence was the bit on the pitch. And I think when you look back now and you read certain books and whatever else, these types of cup runs, and the one the season after as well, and we got to the League Cup final, they probably helped the club out, not just in terms of on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. But these probably things you don't really give too much thought until you reflect back and say, these were significant, not just achievements for the football club, but it probably helped them in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I'm a wee bit, it might sound quite startling to you, but I'm a wee bit young to remember sort of the ins and outs of that. And what happened then, it did certainly seem to be that was sort of almost such a high in the middle of a few lows.
I think obviously, as Webby said, you could see it coming from the inside, and it was hard. It was frustrating. There was players that left because they felt that was the right decision for them. But as again, we did come closer together as a group. And that was our focus, was keeping putting results together, and our be all end all was trying to get to the cup final. I think we were 7th or 8th at the time, so we knew that the European places had sort of drifted by. So it was a case of making sure that we done well in the Scottish Cup, and the longer the season went on and things like that, it was something that we spoke about, and something that obviously as a group we had to stick together because there was things going on behind the scenes, and there was days when you didn't know what was coming next, and walking through the doors at the training ground, whether it was going to be good news or a bad news day type thing. So it was massive for all of us to stick together, and it shows. And I think obviously I would say 95% of the squad still speak to each other, still quite close to each other, and that again shows what we had in the dressing room. So and it proved to obviously help us on the home run as well.
Yeah, obviously one of the big members of that group, for numerous reasons in that time, was obviously Mari Salukis, who tragically passed away in the day of the semi-final, ironically against Hibs. But I don't know if you've seen it just before we record this, but I think Hearts are wearing the number 26 on the shorts this Sunday to commemorate him. What are your sort of just general memories of him, especially in that run?
Yeah, I think Marius was captain of the football club. He led by example. And it's probably a small fitting tribute to Marius that the club have done that on his behalf, and rightly so. to captain any club, or that significance as well? I think Dan's maybe discussed this previously as well, where it wasn't always probably easy for Marius at Hearts initially, but he got through the rubbish. He became captain of the football club. He showed a perseverance and a resilience, and a fitting tribute to him that he was able to lift the Scottish Cup. It's actually funny, in my drawer in my bedroom, to tell a little story. I opened my drawer the other day and I've got a picture, probably a 6x4, of us lifting the Scottish Cup, and it's probably in a pile of something, and the only bit I could see was Marius's face lifting the Scottish Cup. And when you just see that in an isolated incident, you can tell how much it meant to him. So yeah, God rest his soul. Absolutely tragic what's happened to him. But in terms of the football aspect, yeah, he was, and obviously I played alongside him. So no, I think absolutely tragic what's happened, and some sort of fitting tribute towards him, which is great.
Yeah, it definitely seemed a bit of a larger than life character. Again, I probably missed the first part. I think when he first came to Scottish football, I was 5. So I've missed the first part of his career, but I was a wee bit older by the time 2012 came about. So remember a wee bit more about him then, and he definitely seemed larger than life.
He was every day in the dressing room. He was just so happy. He bounced around. There was sometimes you just go in and you'd be it didn't matter what type of day it was, whether it was raining, sunny, or whatever. He was bouncing around like a Duracell bunny, and that was Zal. He was a laugh. He was always happy, always smiling. And as Webby said, he did have to go through even in that year, he went through a lot. In the Euro Scottish Cup run for us, because of everything that was going on behind the scenes. He was the captain. He was who we had to go to for everything off the field, and fair play to him. He stuck by all the players and everything to make sure that he could do as much as he could. And as Webby says, it's tragic what's happened to him, because he was a happy-go-lucky, just a happy person. And like you say, it's tragic what's happened to him. And fingers crossed that Sunday they can get the result and another piece of memory for Zal as well.
No, I think it is. I think, I'm not saying it's more fitting, but obviously Robbie Nielsen's obviously got more of a personal connection with him as well, just as you have, and I'm assuming he'll be driving home the message. It's not quite the Zal Lucas final, but he'll probably be in his thoughts pretty heavily on Sunday. Yeah,
and I think regarding that as well, it would be a fitting tribute. I think sometimes it'd be quite poignant as well, if Hearts were able to do it. So I think, yes, maybe at the forefront of their minds, maybe maybe before the match, obviously. Then once the game kicks off, the real focus has to come and make sure that the players are right, got the right mindset going into the game. So fingers crossed, it's a positive outcome for everybody, and everybody can enjoy their Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Right, just finally then, I know some of us have got training to go to, still at this late stage in their career. But how are you sort of looking forward to it? How do you see the game panning out? Obviously Hearts are massive underdogs, but it's one of those, to roll out an old cliche, it's a one-off game, anything can happen.
It's a cup final. It's similar to when we played in the final. We were the better team. We were more confident. But it's a cup final. Everything's thrown out the window, and it's who turns up on the day. I think that obviously Hearts will need to ride the luck a little bit. I think the big players, your Craig Gordons, Naismiths, Herrings, Boyce, will need to have good games. And again, it's putting the pressure on Celtic and trying to make them feel the nerves of what they're having at the moment. And as Webby said before, it's something that they've not experienced for many years now, because they've been so dominant through the years. And I think now obviously it's starting to turn a little bit. The pressure will be on them. There's a huge expectation from everyone inside and outside of Celtic. There's no doubt about that. And even more so now, they're playing a championship club as big as Hearts are. Hearts are a championship club at the moment, and Celtic fans and everyone like that will be putting the pressure onto the players that they have to win the game. So I think it can work well for Hearts, and the fact that they've got them at the perfect time, I feel. And I just hope that obviously a few big performers from the Hearts end, and fingers crossed they can get the result.
Do you much to say?
Yeah, I think just whoever can get themselves in the ascendancy as early as they possibly can, because with cup finals, regardless of there's fans there or not, there's going to be a bit of apprehension. So whoever can get past that as quickly as they can, stamp their authority on the game, get themselves on the front foot and have a positive impact. So hopefully Hearts can do that. I'm sure they'll be looking to do that. It's like any game of football, both teams will want to start the game well. So I think whoever can implement their game plan early enough, it'd be good to see Hearts going a goal up, to see what Celtic have got. But as Dan touched on earlier as well, it doesn't take too much in a cup final for things to turn quickly on its head as well. So there will be a lot of nerves, because ultimately, when nature says we don't like losing, but ultimately somebody's going to have to go out and make sure that they win the cup final. And as I say, hopefully with the experience Hearts have and the quality that they've got right throughout their team, that they've got an unbelievable opportunity to lift the Scottish Cup.